Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather around a virtual lunch table and share albums with each other, one at a time, taking turns like a book club for music. It's a fun time, had by all. I'm Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew. We've got Brett.
I would like to think I'm the Hector, the booty inspector of this funky bunch.
Yes. We've got Drew.
My mother was always really afraid of Darth Maul.
And we've got
Good
Patrick.
vibrations. Sorry.
We got Patrick.
Yes, what they said.
Yes. We are here to talk about music. We are here to talk about an album. The provider of the album this week is, of course, none other than Drew. Drew, what do you have for us this week?
Well, I was bringing in a band that had a Kickstarter. Kickstarter got funded. So I dove back into their music because they were always a favorite of my youth. Band known as Magnified Plaid, MxPx to most. Band from the Seattle-ish area of Washington, more like Bremerton. But their album, Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo,
Jesus.
I decided to bring on.
This is back in their more closely Christian days.
Gospel.
Which they've kind of gone away from, I think, from what I can tell on Wikipedia.
A little bit. It's a thing where I think when the band sort of semi broke up, Mike didn't want to be super associated with just the one thing. It's the Squad 5-0 thing of oh, well, I don't want to be just this anymore. I don't want people to think of just this when they think of me, sort of thing, I think, at least from what I can gather from interviews. But
yeah, this is interesting. But yeah, let's talk about expectations. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Oh, I've heard this album a ton. I frequented skate parks as a kid, and I actually built a skate park, but that skate park was indoors and funded by a church. So instead of listening to horrible, awful stuff that I normally would, instead of NoFX and Bad Religion, or Pennywise, it was this. And I'm very familiar with most of these songs. This CD lived in my car for a little while for those moments, just in case I needed to be inoffensive. But yeah, let's say I'm familiar.
Yes. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I know who MxPx is, and that song "My Life Story" I think was on a Tony Hawk game. That was pretty good, but I never really went down the MxPx rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. So I think these songs were new to me.
Yeah, I think I'm more closer to Patrick's, where I've known a few songs, including the much known Chick Magnet. A lot of people know that one. But I don't think I've ever sat down and listened. Actually, I'm pretty sure I've never sat down and listened to an entire album. So I knew it was gonna be cool to deep dive into this. Drew, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements that you would bring up?
Well, the band in general, something about them for me, like I said before, is very nostalgic. Something about them and the people I hung out with and stuff like that. The sound drew me in pretty instantly. And this album in particular, I think, was one that really stuck around a lot of places. It was one of the more prominent ones as far as I think their sound goes. You didn't see as much Poconacha as you did Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo. And I think there's really a reason for that. It started to be where I think MxPx sort of got into their sound. A Life in General was, of course, the big one. People say, Chick Magnet sort of got their name on the map. Although I would argue that I think Responsibility was a bigger song, but that's besides the point. And this album, this title is actually from a fan writing them and saying you guys are slowly going the way of the buffalo. You guys are slowly just turning into something that you're not, and sort of dying off, and it feels like you're wrong. And I feel like a lot of this album is just kind of Mike and the boys, as it were, just going no, like we don't care. Like we're still gonna make our album how we want to make it. It's nasally like skate punk, pop punk. At points, it's a album about like personal BS in sort of a brash manner, and just putting yourself out on Front Street and just doing it in that sort of brash way, which I think is cool. Like Brett said, it's not offensive. It's just like more.
No, unless you're offended by like mildly Christian lyrics.
Yes, yeah. as long as like a stone's throw away from a church.
You believe things I don't like, so therefore I'm mad.
I'm mad.
If you ever, well, man. There's a bad religion sighting later on this record. If you ever wanted to poke fun at either band being too far up their own belief system, like there's a guy from Bad Religion on an MxPx record, so maybe it's not all that serious to either side. But the sound in general is very much like that mid to late 90s skate punk sort of sound. This is a 90s skate park almost to a T to me. The bass most of the time just rides the main note of the chord. It deviates here and there. They're older than when they first started, so it's something that they've been playing a lot. So obviously you're going to get a little better, even no matter where you started out and how bad you were when your band started. If you play this much, you're eventually going to learn some things. And I feel like some of the bridges, the bass parts that Mike Herrera does is sort of him like, hey, I learned a thing because I've been playing the bass guitar a lot. But it's never super complicated. It's never super crazy, but it's just something that on a summer's day, like you can go outside, hang out. You're not going to offend anybody by listening to it, but it's still going to be a summery, fun sort of record to me, at least. It's something that like you can blast out your car window and not make anybody mad, but people are kind of going to look at you like, what? But it's that sort of record to me.
It's that sort of record. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
I mean, the vocals sound like pop punk, but this is a skate punk album. This is a skate punk band. They just like, this was an album that came out when everybody else sounded nasally and weird. But like the sounds of this album, like they're using the same drum beats and like we're gonna open up a track with like lyrics, then we're gonna have a little bit of a rest, and then somebody's gonna slide a pick down the neck of the guitar, and we're gonna go for a little bit on the drum. They do all of the skate punk things that that make you just want to go over the spine and like not break your leg doing a backflip. This is very, very like bland. It is turn of the millennium, like, so it's kind of it's 98, I think. So it's sort of,
we're a year away from Enema of the State, people.
Yeah, so like there was other people doing stuff already. We hadn't quite had our haircuts going sideways. We haven't gotten to the eyeliner and skinny neckties era. But we're definitely pretty much past like the super relevance of the Pennywises, the NoFX, the people that were doing the people that were like 16 in the early 90s. It sort of aged out, and the musicians who were the turn of the 90s punk rock kids were growing up by then. So it's very different. Yes, like I said, their vocals do kind of sound like they had dental work done the day that they recorded. It's fairly simple punk rock progressions. They're not treading new ground musically, but they had a gimmick, and it was a really good gimmick. Like, you got to say, if you're going to come to a genre and be like, we're going to bring the Lord, punk rock is not the easiest one to be doing that. Sir, do you have a minute to listen to my punk rock album about the Lord? It's not really. They're an outlier, and they were allowed to do what they did. They were successful at doing what they did, but like they were so inoffensive that but they also brought a legit sound along with it. Like I was talking to the guys before in pre-show the show before we recorded about how like I've listened to a lot of punk rock bands that have terrible lyrics that I've ignored over the years. I really don't know a lot of lyrics off of this album, but I've heard it probably dozens, if not like a lot more than that time front to back. So like this definitely has a legit like skate punk sound to it. It just has some Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, a good point that I just thought of is that I think part of it, and part of why you have people like Bad Religion, like Pennywise, that like will recognize MxPx as a band that like is something of note, is that I think that yes, they brought the Lord. They were talking about some Jesus, but they were coming at it from a place of like, you can tell in this song they obviously like weren't coming at this of like, oh hey, punk rock could be really, this wasn't a DC Talk situation where it was like, we're going to shove the Lord into a music genre that's popular to try to get popular by being the Lord in this music genre. It was like, nah, they like punk rock, and they, when you write punk rock, you write what you know.
And
they
punk rock
wrote
is
what they knew.
like the punk rock that I've always brought, and the punk rock that I think we all grew up on is a very live and let live. Like it's very libertarian. Like if you aren't bothering me, what the fuck's the problem? You know. So it's Fat Mike has no problem with somebody that disagrees with him, and that's everybody. That's not true. That's not true. I have stories too, but yeah.
He punched a dude from under him. You know.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
Hey, you know, drugs are bad, kids.
Yeah.
You don't see the MxPx kids. Yeah.
Punching random dudes.
Wasting their days on the golf course like Fat Mike does these days.
But yeah,
Sorry.
Patrick, what would be how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
So if like Pennywise and NoFX are like the 8-ball in the drug realm of punk, this is like a 12-year-old with a sugar high. Like it is. I feel like if you come into this and you have never heard punk before,
I'm
you're
prescribed
like, oh,
Adderall.
Yeah, you've never heard punk before. You'll be like, yeah, man, this is punk rock. Yeah,
Edgy.
Yeah, but like when you're an old broken fucker like me, you're like, oh, it's too nice. It's like I feel like punk should scare your mom a little.
I got something to say. Please.
Yeah. And like I feel like how you end up with that MxPx slowly going the way of the buffalo in your music collection in 1998 is you asked your mom for a NoFX CD for Christmas. She got offended by whatever the title she saw was and bought this instead, thinking it was the exact same thing. It's not bad. Like it's late 90s like skater punk. If you like that sound, this sounds like that. It sounds like that, but like it wants to like put a hand on your back and be like, it's gonna be okay. And I feel like punk should be angsty or angry or rebellious. And this is, I don't know what this is rebelling against.
Hey, number one rebel, Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know what? They have the courage to be blanded and offensive, which makes them rebellious.
Yes, they're getting it the other way around.
Yes. I think it's fun. It's it's not challenging, but it's fun and sing along to. It's fun to sing along to. It's fun to jump around to. So yeah, I think that overall it's just a fun experience. But let's talk about some of the tracks. Let's get into some of the actual songs. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Gonna do a little bit of the Drew thing. I'm sorry. But these were like 2-minute songs, and there were 16 of them. So fuck you. Under Lock and Key. The album starts with a song that has the punk drum beat with a lot of hi-hat and some nasal vocal. It's like, oh hey, if you didn't know this was the album you were getting, if you didn't know you were just gonna get like, hey, here's some punk rock to ride a skateboard to through your neighborhood. Like that's what you're getting. Tomorrow's Another Day. I have to mention that song because that song very specifically has a very particular place with me. And I'll leave it at that. But it sort of speeds up the album a little from the song before it, lets you kind of know where some of this album is going to be going. Party My House Be There is still one of the songs that like to me is like one of those like perfect sing-along-y like fun songs. Plus the bass tone in it was something that like I'm a sucker for like super hollowy like
that
yeah like some super slinky Ernie balls with like the tone like just
pick. Yeah.
Yes, that tone. I played with a pick for years because like I wanted the tone of Mike Herrera for better or worse. And the Downfall of Western Civilization, I feel like, is a song that was made because they had a catchy chorus and they didn't know what to do with it. So they were like, fuck, we gotta write some verses, I guess. But they got Greg Hetson to sing on the track, so like that's cool.
Whoa.
Greg Hetson on a song about or on an album with some Jesus in it. Fist versus Tack is the last one I wanted to bring up because like that song kind of blasts out of nowhere for no apparent reason, which I think is kind of great, and I think it's kind of a little bit of that like that they wrote that song and recorded that song thinking about the guy that wrote them that letter and just thinking like, man, that guy don't know who I am, and that's came up with this.
Yeah.
It's a diss track.
Yeah, the diss track
pop
from,
punkers, the skate punkers
from a band that likes Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, piggybacking off of Drew, the opener Under Lock and Key, it has some of that like you've heard it. Fat Mike does it all the time. That that bass tone where it's way down on the bridge and you're doing the alternating picking like that very weird. You only hear it in punk rock songs because it kind of like alone it'd probably be an annoying tone for your entire house to hear, but it's the punk rock bass tone. I remember hearing the song a lot. It's simple. It's also got a punk rock bridge, which every time there's a punk rock song with a bridge, it's noteworthy. Like, I want to bring it up. Like, they didn't have to, but they did. And there weren't even lyrics on the bridge. It was Final Slow Dance. That is a song that I've heard a billion times. And every time I hear it, I think, oh, this is an okay, like this could be like, any song in the world that I've heard, but they changed the tempo, and that tempo change really affects the way that everything sounds on the song, because it's kind of it's like those lame ass old Misfit songs that are almost sound like a doo-wop, but they're just offensive. This is like that, but without the offensive. But they changed the tempo, so it's cool. And Cold and All Alone. No, that's isn't that also a Ben Folds song? I don't know. But like, it's a punk progression that everybody's heard everywhere. It's everybody does it, and it has there are hints. It does everything. It has that pick slide down the neck. It does everything. All of the boxes were checked that you would get in secular punk, but it is put together in a way, and every song on this album is very tight and well put together. It's not the most difficult thing to do, but they at least did it. There have been many punk rock albums where people were too drunk to record a tight album. This is not one of them. I think that makes for some really solid tracks. And like, this is one of those albums, like, the songs take less time to listen to than for me to make a concise opinion on them be stated. This is a very fast album, so like, you could go down through any of these songs, but trying to find like the gold in them there hills is a little hard when you've got songs that are like a few seconds long, a handful of seconds long.
Yeah. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
The Downfall of Western Civilization, because every like pop punk song had a bit that sounded exactly like the intro of it. For whatever reason, there was a Blink-182 song that played in my head when I heard that, and I'm like, yeah, that's like, you play like 3 almost half open chords and it sounds exactly like the intro of that, and it's like not a bad song. And then exactly.
That's easy.
Invitation to Understanding. This is this is really encompasses why this is too nice. I'm not even against the message. It's too goddamn uplifting, and maybe it's because I am just bitter and miserable. But
Probably.
They're trying to lift you up.
I know, they're too damn nice, but the harmonies are good. It just it's like there's like a squeaky cleanness to this. It's not just like nice. It's like annoyingly nice, I guess would be the way to describe it. It is the way they portray Mormons on South Park. Annoyingly nice.
Hey, these are a crew of guys that have some rules. They got a book. They can give it to you. It's the rule book.
But like even if you go listen to never mind. I've lost track of my train of thought.
Yeah, that awesome.
Yeah,
album.
Nirvana. When I think of underground Christian music, I think of Nirvana.
Yeah, I think of a guy blowing his brains out with a shotgun. But no, it's too nice, and it's not angsty enough. I will replace anger with angst and be okay. We all know this.
No,
and it has neither of those.
Incorrect. That is.
I feel like you need one. You need one in punk, and this has neither.
I
would say
that's where we differ. I don't need
think
angst in my punk rock. I just need to have a good time.
No, I like anger every now and then.
Anger's all right.
Yeah.
I enjoy anger as well, but
a little
also,
bit of a
and
stiff
being a
upper lip.
teenager, like you have to be young. I don't like old
anger
people
is
that are
proactive.
angry.
Anger
Yes.
is proactive.
Not self-destructive. Always.
But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Fuck G.G. Allen.
I mean, no.
I don't. He's not a very attractive fellow, you know.
He's
not
also
really my
dead.
type.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. She's probably less gross than he was when he was alive.
I don't like digging.
Yeah. This is
Let's talk about necrophilia on the MxPx review.
Hey, who was the one that brought it?
That means like, I'm bringing TSOL next time. Jesus.
Good Lord.
Let's get back to it.
A little bit of Ghost.
Lord Almighty. But yeah. I know we've covered the tracks, so let's talk about some conclusive thoughts. Brett, what will be your conclusive thoughts on the album as a whole?
This album did not change my life, but it made it so that I was able to listen to music that was palatable while I was in places in mixed company, where, talking about necrophilia was not probably a cool thing. Which, surprisingly, a lot of punk rock songs about fucking dead people that have entered my playlists and over the years. But no, this is, it definitely brings the Jesus crowd to a genre that is generally opposed to such things, and it's noteworthy. I think that's the biggest takeaway, that this is an anomaly, kind of. It's a very successful band that has some credit. They did it. They put their time in. They sold the records. They put out a bazillion of them, and they worked. They worked the scene, and they did it from a position where it is not a gimmick. I wouldn't call it a gimmick. They're pretty sincere about it, but they totally are coming from a place where they don't have the edge, and they succeeded in a genre that is not probably super accepting of people coming to you talking about Jesus.
They definitely didn't have the edge Mike Herrera drank.
Well, not the straightest edge. There are edges that are kind of curvy. I can take you down those. I can take you down those
that
edges.
one out there.
But yeah, it's an okay album too. They did a good job on this one, although they had done it enough to know better at this time. So maybe if you go back, you can find the grit. If you go older albums, it does get a little grittier. But this is a great album to start with if you just want to be like, hey, I want to hear what the late 90s skate punk sounded like from the eyes of like gospel punk.
Yeah.
No, if I go that far. They mentioned
hey,
Jesus like
Wikipedia
once or
did.
twice on this record.
Wikipedia calls them a gospel band, which is hilarious.
That's
Fucking hilarious.
Them and the
Goddamn
Righteous
Wikipedia.
Brothers.
But moving on. Patrick, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I think this album, if you came to it at the right time in your musical growing up, I totally understand why it would be a thing you would enjoy. But I feel like it's got to be pretty early in your punk rock learnings for it to really stick. I'm old and bitter, and it doesn't do it for me. But it also like it does sound like '90s skate punk, and if you want to, hear what that scene was like, this is it. This is very much what was going on then, outside of like some of the other bands we've talked to that are in this sort of, area or adjacent to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think overall it's a fun record, and it has a lot going for it. It has a fair amount going for it that is good. It's not something that I would call memorable or something that, or at least not something that would blow my mind in any way. But it's not meant to. It's just supposed to be a fun punk rock, a fun skate punk, catchy record to blast on your boombox while you're in the pool. The pool with no water in it. I mean, specifically.
No, if you can skate on the pool with water, like
that's
pretty
cool.
golf.
All grinding.
That's a risky grind. Let me tell you.
But yeah, I think overall that's basically the thought. Is that it's good, it's fun, it's inoffensive. But it's well made. Drew, how would you how would you say, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album as a whole?
This is a band that is, like you guys said, it isn't going to be super memorable for most. And it's not like they're breaking utterly new ground. This is like, none of their records were something that was like, oh, this is a revelation. This is something way different. But like, this was this record and this band in general for me is something that, like I said, is when I put it on, it's a very nostalgic sound for me. It's one of those bands that I can always put on and just sort of enjoy. They hit a couple of bad records in the middle. I'm not going to pretend like Before Everything and After was the greatest thing ever.
You ain't lying.
Before Everything and After and Panic were really bad. Secret Weapon got back to some good stuff, but that besides the point. The thing about MxPx is just that, like I said, I think Patrick said it best. Like, if you come to this band either knowing what they are or they hit you at the right time, I think that it's a band that sort of sticks with you, because it encapsulates that time period very, very well. At least for me, it's something that I very much enjoyed, and it was one of the things that was on regular rotation. That being said, I haven't listened to a whole lot of them recently because it's something that is not musically diverse. It's catchy and it's fun. You put it on a sunny day and you go out and you go out and you skateboard or you drive around or you
put
hang
on
out with
soap
your
shoes
friends.
and you
put on some
walk.
soap shoes and you escape from the city. No, wait, that's a different band. And a completely different sound. But point being is, I don't know. It's something that if super ridiculous, hard, brash punk rock is not your thing, and maybe you're not like super into music that talks about politics a lot, like MxPx might be a thing that you enjoy. And it's something that I very much enjoy, and I'm glad they're going to be making more of it soon. I hope it's not terrible. The Five Iron Frenzy album went okay, so I'm hoping this one goes okay too.
Those are two completely different things, but have your hope. Have your hope, Drew. Be hopeful.
The Five Iron Frenzy. One of the stretch goals on the Kickstarter was Five Iron Frenzy's horn section doing horns to old MxPx songs.
That's putting very that out weird. There. That's very weird. You can't just that. I would listen to that, but still, like
I'll make sure to get you a copy because I might have one coming to me.
Okay, because I ain't kickstarting shit, but no.
Yeah,
that's cool. That is cool that they were able to do that.
That's cool. But yeah, that being said, those are our thoughts on MxPx. Now we get to the main event of the evening. We get to our haiku reviews, where we sum it all up in poetic form. Yeah, let's get down to it. Brett, what is your haiku?
I knew this one well. A different take on skunk punk. Yeah, skate punk. They bring the Lord.
Yes.
Skunk punk.
Skunk punk.
It's the dankest.
The stankest.
No. No.
Lick it stick. Patrick, what is your haiku?
Squeaky clean skate punk. Won't scare your mother at all. Lacks something for me.
Let's skip to my haiku. The kind of album you jump around and sing to, then play Tony Hawk. Even though they didn't have any songs from Tony Hawk on this particular album, but still. Drew, finally, what is your haiku?
16-year-old Drew. This one was the favorite. And I still love him.
Yeah, those are our thoughts on MxPx. You can, of course, find this album on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Follow along at home. Do your homework. Do your due diligence. Do your duty.
Your due diligence.
Skunk Punk. Skunk Punk with their late debut album, Due Diligence. I'm looking forward to that.
My work is already in front of me.
Yes. That being said, do the things. On that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, barring a guest, which we still haven't figured out if there's going to be a guest episode like we usually do. Well, like we like to do between cycles. It's going to be my record. I'm bringing the guys something from my past. I wouldn't call it childhood, but it's something from my college days, a little bit late, like teenhood, college days. Saves the day with their album "Stay What You Are." So can emo, to say the least. This is gonna be a really cool album to discuss, but that would be then, and this is now. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at HeyBBBird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and other places. Check us out, like, share, subscribe. Do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Doodaloo.